We're back in Denver.
Denver, dude.
Denver, Colorado.
Where it all started.
This is where it all started, at the Riley Hotel. Today, we're back in Denver, and Bonesy and I wanted to kind of launch this KIF Conversations piece of the KIFCAST. The goal is to kind of do every other podcast a conversation piece with different topics and maybe even different people, but stay on a specific topic. And we thought...
Attempt to stay on a specific topic.
Unlikely that it happens, huh? But what better place we thought than to kind of do this while we were back in Denver, Colorado. Rented out this 6 studio space for this podcast. And
KIF Conversations, dude.
The KIF Conversations.
It kind of like rolls right off the tongue.
It does kind of roll off the tongue, but we're hoping to kind of make them like 30-minute pieces.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Quick little episodes. But today's topic... I wonder if they heard that. I wonder if you could hear that through the mic. She said it was quiet, dude. Today's topic is why we travel / what inspires us to travel and so on. So, like I said, we thought what better place to do it while we were on the road.
You mean while we're on a trip? Why do we travel while we're traveling?
Yeah, exactly.
So perfect.
Let's dive right into it. Bones, I want to know if you could sum this thing up into a couple questions. What do you think is the inspiration / reason behind why you decide to go on these trips and travel?
Well, I mean, like this trip was obviously an excuse to go snowboarding again. I'm still trying to buy a snowboard because we've attempted twice to go buy a snowboard, but we're going to make it happen. We still got a couple more days left. But also being able to tie in some hockey stuff too. So, I mean, being able to go out and do things that you can't do, like in Nashville, we can't go snowboarding. So like obviously traveling is a fun excuse to do these fun recreational things.
Yeah, it's pretty good time. We snuck in. I'm so thankful we snuck in one last day of snowboarding before summer. I know Colorado's had a crazy snow season this year, so that's been really nice. Real quick, too, before we go any further, I want to address my incredibly nasally voice and our sunburn from riding all day yesterday.
What are you, human or something? Like spring has sprung and you're being hit by allergies? That's crazy.
I was in Nashville and they started ripping and then road tripped to Austin, Texas to help move my sister.
This is like a huge travel trip for you right now. Like you've been on a crazy stretch of... traveling.
It was a road trip to Dallas. We hung out with my mom there for a night, and then we all drove to Austin to help my sister move. But yeah, allergies going from one climate to another completely different one in Denver where it's dry and it's still a little chilly here. It's driving me crazy. But yeah, I just wanted to address my nasally voice real quick and our sunburn. But we're back in Denver. Got one more day in. It was so nice. The snow was unbelievable. It was nice and soft in the morning, and then got a little slushy in the afternoon. And of course, that was your first spring experience on a snowboard. So that was awesome. But yeah, I guess moving back to on topic. I think it's really cool. I know we've kind of touched on it before. I think on the first episode or something. But Bonesy and I have known each other for not super long, but we've at this point traveled parts of the world together, and it's kind of like our MO, It's when we get together,
traveling has kind of been what really brought us together in general. Like that's really a big reason why we started hanging out in the first place. And now it's like obviously led us to like this, sitting in front of a couple microphones and talking about our experiences and stuff. So, I mean, like traveling has really kind of like made that friendship. Yeah.
Been kind of the catalyst for why we've done everything. But you also with hockey, I mean, like it's kind of been a little piece of your entire life working for, an airline and having those benefits, be able to check out new places, traveling all over for hockey growing up.
Right.
Touching on your story, it's thinking about it now. It's kind of interesting. Like you have a lot of cool stories with that. But yeah, I think for myself, it's one of those things that growing up in upstate New York, where I did grow up, my mom was always trying to show us cool new places on long weekends or, spring break after she'd get done with her crazy work season, which is tax season. She would take us on these crazy little trips, to get us out of the small town we were from and just show us new stuff, which, I definitely realized that I was super spoiled with that. Cause like not a lot of kids from where I'm from got those opportunities, but Definitely was super spoiled with that. And that was definitely the piece or something that it was embedded like really, really early.
Oh yeah.
And you don't notice it, of course, then, but as you start to put puzzle pieces together and you get older and you start to, play with stuff in your brain, you realize, oh man, like,
oh yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of people, especially when you're younger, a lot of traveling is mostly to either like visit family or like you're going to like Disneyland or like
of course,
going to some sort of main attraction thing for like a vacation thing or even just going to the beach or something like that. And it's not a lot of people get the opportunity to travel in general, but like, especially at a young age, being able to travel like that, like that's huge.
Yeah, it was insane, man. And then, growing up, being a little action sports kid, skating when I was really little, and then, of course, that pivoting into BMX, same deal. Like, my mom dropped everything for us to be able to go practice on the weekends at these indoor skate parks all over the Northeast or to compete. I think we started going on pretty epic weekend trips at like 10, 12, around that time. Maybe 13, but
starting them young, dude. Starting them young.
Yeah, I was a little grom, just wanted to be everywhere. Anywhere.
You just had that wanderlust at a young age.
Yeah, well, for me, dude, it was just BMX. I just wanted to be around that culture because, we just didn't have it in the town I was in. It was like you played traditional sports, or you worked on a farm, or I don't know what else you did, but it was very not the traditional. Excuse me, I got Topo Chico burps, but it was very much not the traditional path in upstate New York. And I just wanted to be around that and in that culture as much as I could. So that involved traveling. And, of course, my mom, again, another thing you don't understand in the moment is like, of course, my mom noticed that and identified that. And she was like, okay, this is what my kid loves. This is what I'm going to do to get him there.
Yeah,
in
right. Dude,
these rooms with these people, so to speak, you know, like air quotes, but in this sense, it was the room was a skate park, an indoor skate park in New Hampshire or Ohio or North Carolina. It was just long weekend road trips. So that was definitely the beginning. But, as you get older and you start to realize how much bigger the world is and how much like beyond the things you're interested in, which in this case was bike riding or even, surfing and snowboarding at the time, the world is so much bigger and there's so many more experiences to be made outside of those things.
Definitely.
So, as you learn more, you become more hungry.
Well, dude, like describe that feeling when you get back home from a trip and just like the different mindset that you have before you go on your trip and after you come home. Like you're a totally different person almost. Like,
yeah.
Such a good feeling when you come back and it's like, oh, okay, like I'm finally back home. It's nice to be home. You're happy to be there. And like, I don't know. I know for me, like it's just a totally different feeling when you get back.
Oh man. Remember like the very last night in Paris, I think we were all sitting at dinner and
oh man,
we were just talking
Are
about,
you trying to make me cry right now?
we were kind of talking about like, we are completely different people today than we were 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
By a lot. There's these new experiences and, when the build up to a trip like that is so exciting, but then to complete a trip like that and realize the new, almost like breaking down internal walls, which I know like to a lot of people who do spend a lot of time traveling, it's very cheesy, but to people who maybe don't or want to, hopefully this makes sense, but doing trips like that and completing them and checking pieces like that off the list, it kind of helps you, like I said, break down walls within yourself that say like, I can't do it. And then you finally do it. And you're like, wait, I've checked all of these places off the list. Why can't I check this off?
Dude.
And why can't I check this experience off? Whatever it is, if it's traveling to a new place or experiencing something new, it's always like a box you check.
Yeah.
In some weird way. But yeah.
It definitely unlocks not only like the drive to go and do more stuff like that, but like it gives you the confidence in yourself that you can go do it. And then it's like, oh, like I've done this before. I know what I need to do. And you start, like you said, you're getting more and more hungry to go to more and more places.
Yeah. So I know after that trip, after a lot of my trips, cause I've been on a lot of bike trips and fun trips, whatever it is. My mom, when she's like telling stories to our family, she's like, oh, he did this. She's like, yeah, I did it to him. But it's funny because thinking about it, like I was just saying, it's like, yeah, she like instilled that mindset early.
Right.
And like I said, the more of it you get, the more of it you want. So it's interesting.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
just keep getting suckered into buying more plane tickets. And then when you have friends like you and Ryan, you guys just keep suckering us into buying more plane tickets, man.
Seriously.
Just want to come back and visit the boys or go on a new trip to somewhere new.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, like even just you and Ryan both talking about stories, you know, going to California and meeting all these new people. And like, it's not even just about the experiences that you have when you go to places, but also like, you know, you guys were talking about getting to meet new, like cool people.
Of course. Yeah. I think that's a big piece of it and almost, you know, you want to relate it to like a drug, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like it becomes an addiction of like, you want to experience new cultures, you want to experience new people. And yeah, sometimes it makes a lot of stuff more interesting, like in your day-to-day life too, you know? I know we've talked about like, even when you come home and you go back to your like friend group you've been around for a long time, and you try to explain these experiences, and sometimes it just doesn't work.
No.
Sometimes, I mean, I can't say it doesn't work, but sometimes you're like, this isn't hitting how I want it to, you know, like you weren't there.
Right.
And of course I don't mean that in a like, oh, you weren't there way, but it's like, it's difficult
to like explain experience to somebody and like you said, it just doesn't hit the same as the experience that you actually had. And obviously like you want to explain it so that the other person can feel that same feeling that you felt in that moment, but you just can't replicate it through talking to somebody about it. Like you have to go do it.
Yeah, exactly. It's wild, man. But what, if I know right now we're planning another big trip this year, our little crew, and we want to unlock some new places for ourselves.
Yeah.
And kind of a fun question. This is like a very basic question that anyone could ask their friend, but what's a spot that's always been on your mind that you're like, it may be out of reach, but you definitely want to check it off the list?
I mean, like the biggest thing in general, like, you know, going back to like the excuse why you would want to travel, I'd really want to see the Northern Lights, like so bad. That is so high on my bucket list.
Okay.
So I think going somewhere, whether it's in like Sweden or going to a spot, even in Canada, that is just a really good classic spot to see the Northern Lights. You know, it's crazy because a bucket list item like that, it's not that far out of reach. It's not like, oh, it's so difficult to make it happen. Like anybody could make that happen.
Yeah, we were a 6 hour train ride from the Swedish Lapland.
Right. Hey, Ryan, can you look up how far that ride is up to the Northern Lights?
Ryan, could you Google that?
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, I think it's like 6-7 hours from where we were in Sweden.
Yeah.
But I feel like something like that would be more exciting to experience in a place like Sweden. You think about it like going to see the Northern Lights in Canada, but that's like kind of feels like going to see the Northern Lights in America.
Right. It's just like, oh, we're just going to go on a 15-minute drive.
It's like your neighbor's house, like going to see it at your neighbor's house, or you could go to Sweden and do it. So
yeah.
Okay. The Northern Lights. That's cool. That's cool. Is there any places you've ever desired to like definitely play hockey in?
Oh man. It's kind of hard to answer that question because going and playing in Banff, Alberta, which is like such an iconic Lake Louise, is just like such a beautiful place in general, whether it is during the winter and it's frozen over or it's during the summer and you just got the beautiful views, the beautiful lake there. But as far as a place that I've always wanted to play at, like I said, it's tough to answer since I've already played in such a beautiful place.
Yep. On a lake. I cannot believe that,
But
man.
I haven't played hockey overseas anywhere. So the idea of...
Don't say Sweden again.
Why would I say that, Jason?
Don't say
Why are you
Sweden
going to
again.
read my mind and just assume that's where
Wait, remember when we were in okay, so another piece to that trip, but when we were in Chamonix and we went into that casino and they had ads for all the hockey.
Yeah, that's right.
Games.
They have a team out there, right?
I think
is that what we saw
Chamonix.
ads for?
Yeah, I have no idea what that league is,
right.
but we were like, yo, Bonesy, what do you say? Like, grab a contract with them and we'll just move over here.
Super
quick.
easy. Let me grab a quick contract with this team out there.
Just grab a contract at the casino. What if you could just win contracts at the casino?
Oh, you just go in there, you're like, all right, if I win, dude, I'm playing on the team.
Yep.
I'm a starter just because I won this bet.
It's a blackjack table.
I win. I'm like, you remember the bet? You remember the bet?
Starting goalie. That would be cool though. I mean, imagine playing in a place like Chamonix. I know you have friends in Paris, so that play.
Yeah, right.
And friends in Sweden, all over the world. But hey, does Japan have a hockey team or hockey league?
I don't know if they have their own league. You know what? I don't even know what the the Japanese hockey scene looks like. I think I want to say I saw some article about someone studying the I think it was the Japanese goaltending style, and it's a very unique style. Like it kind of branched off of like an old school stand-up style into their almost like very unique style that's different from a style that's played today.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, so we got the Northern Lights off the checklist. I know I got a little carried away asking you about hockey stuff again, but what about Asia? Has Asia ever been like intriguing to you? Is there any specific spots over there?
Nothing just like jumps right out at me. I don't know. What about you? Is Asia like a big thing on your mind? Like,
yeah, for sure. I mean, Europe is definitely like the forefront of everything for me. There's so much, and like I mentioned, going and checking off some of the stuff off the list. I mean, I literally had a poster of dudes snowboarding at I don't know the name of the resort, but in Chamonix, one of the ski resorts.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I had I think it was a picture of like Candide Tovex, a pro skier. I was like a skier and snowboarder, so I double dipped. But I had a photo of him in the French Alps, like in Chamonix, in the Chamonix Valley, skiing somewhere, one of the resorts. And so to check that off the list was insane to me.
Right.
So a lot of stuff that I'm into naturally is European, and with my heritage and stuff. Like my family's very European and very interested in that. So I think naturally that's trickled down, to me. But yes, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in Asia that I'm super intrigued by. I know we've like mentioned snowboarding and stuff in Japan, in the Northern Islands.
Oh,
I think in Sapporo. So that's a huge one. Like I really want to do that, but then being the person that I am and having connections with different factories and stuff in China, I really have this desire to go over there and do, some like sourcing and just visiting of that stuff. Cause oh my gosh, this Topo Chico's ripping. I have some, like, I'm very interested in manufacturing in that process, even if it's not stuff that necessarily I'm going to be making.
Yeah.
But if I could go with like whatever it is, if it's my factories or other factories previously, I'm just very interested in that. So there's parts of China, and then like, I don't know how to say it. It's the Avatar Mountains in China. Mm-hmm. It's one of the national parks. That place looks amazing. The French Polynesian Islands, like I think that's like Bora Bora.
Is that where that is?
I think.
Wow.
But there's like a bunch of island, like, little island resorty places that look amazing. But I think Japan's definitely at the top. Like,
we'll see. Tokyo, like Japanese food is like my top food. I absolutely love Japanese food. Oh man, I love it so much.
I didn't know that. Okay.
So I mean, going to Japan and having Japanese food there would be like top notch. But I think places like Japan or even China are kind of intimidating to me because the language barrier is so, at least in my mind, I think it might be like a mental thing that I have.
Yep.
It's just so extreme. And it's like intimidating for me, I guess. But like the idea of going there and like, oh, dude, the food would be so good just on a food basis alone.
Yeah, I've heard that. Of course, you think like when you think of Japanese food, you think of like traditional Japanese food that we see, or not even traditional, but the typical Japanese food that we see here in the States.
Yeah.
But some of our family friends had told us they lived in Japan for 12 years, and they told us, when you go up to the Northern Islands, into the mountains and stuff, especially in the winter, the comfort food in Japan is like nothing you've ever experienced.
What, really?
So like that to me, like good comfort food after snowboarding.
Dude, that just like really spiked my interest.
Yeah. We got to get Bonesy out to the
Oh my God, dude.
Okay,
like going snowboarding yesterday and like being able to sit down afterwards and just have like a big old burger and some fries and everything like that. Yep. Like, oh dude, that hit the spot. Sitting right next to the mountain and everything like that with a sick view. But the idea of doing that in Japan and experiencing their, like what their comfort food would be. Like, yeah, I'm in. Okay, cool. I guess we're going to Japan now. Sick.
Sucks, man.
I'm glad we talked that over.
That's the thing too. It's snowboard culture. I feel like after you ride, that's like a whole nother piece to the culture of snowboarding. Is like the après or après ski. Like it's like you finish riding, and there's this big, comfortable world after riding. You sit by a fireplace. You enjoy good food. You enjoy like heavy comfortable food.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. Like
I think there's some crossover there, and at least in the recreational hockey world.
Yeah.
You know, after you play, it's like boys are going to go hang on the parking lot, have a couple of beers, or they're going to pop over to the bar and, you know, grab a bite to eat or something like that and just kind of chill. So like I said, I think there's definitely some crossover there.
I feel like too in, like you were saying, lake hockey up in Canada, you know, you're cold, your cheeks are rosy. It's been a long day out on the lake and it's a Saturday or something. Even if it's just recreational, you just want to like cozy up after, you know, to get clean, cozy up, and then just go have a big meal with the crew. Man. It seems like it would be very similar. I think before this, I had a whole list of things I wanted to touch on, but I think something, or hopefully to bring value to people, if you were to give people one tip on their first time traveling abroad to Europe, maybe not like Canada or like Mexico, you know, because that's close by. But if you were to give one tip to people before traveling abroad, what do you think that would be?
I think you can get lost in the traveling, getting lost in the details of like just overwhelming yourself with the details. But I think having at least some sort of like game plan and being able to go with the flow, but also stuff that you can rely on that are like, okay, like we don't know what we're going to do right now, but here's some things that we can kind of hit to either kill some time or like, oh, there's a spot over here that I already looked up. Because if you go into a place like that and it's like, you don't want to waste your time.
Big time. Big time. I like that one. I think I was thinking about it the other day, trying to come up with a good answer. And I think I probably thought of maybe like 30 at the time.
Holy cow. I think I thought of maybe like 4 or 5, 30.
I thought of a bunch, just like little tips and tricks, you know, of like, dude, it came down to like, don't overpack. Because I brought a huge bag. Because I was like, I'm going to need clothes for every type of climate, which in hindsight, for the first time, I'm like, glad we did. Usually I'm like, man, I'm bummed I brought so much stuff. I just lugged it around. But because Sweden, you know, was cold, like the morning we got on the flight to go to Cannes, I think it was 26 Fahrenheit. And then we got to Cannes and it was 85. So there was a huge gap in, you know, temperatures and stuff. So that was a big one for me, was not overpacking and making sure you have your electronics dialed.
Yeah. Well, and something that my dad has always taught me traveling too is that like, it doesn't matter if you forgot something. You could always get it. Like if you show up somewhere, it's a little colder than you thought, go get a sweater. Like you forgot a phone charger, go get a charger. Like I forgot my deodorant this trip. Like I still need to go get some deodorant. So
dude,
like,
you have been smelling.
Hey, whoa. I've been like active, dude. I've been active.
You've been running a lot, or?
We rode bikes before this. So, I might be a little gamey after the bike ride. But yeah, like I said, like if you forget something, don't even sweat it. Or even if you're leaving, like you're going back home and it's like, oh, well, crap, I forgot my phone charger. Like, bro, don't worry about it. Just go get another one.
That's true. I like that. That makes it definitely a little bit easier on it. I'm trying to think too, another piece to it was like budgeting for a trip.
Yeah, right.
There's so many pieces and parts, and I think that could even be its own episode. Right. It's like talking about how to budget for a huge trip like that and breaking it down for people.
Oh, absolutely.
Because there's so many ways you could cut costs. You know, we kind of went, we put this trip together super quick. Our last trip, our last big trip, we put it together super quick, and there was no like, we're going to make like dinner every other night or like even every night. It was kind of just like, hey, we want to go and we want to experience the culture. Yeah, and we want to eat out and enjoy it. So there's definitely ways to cut costs on that front. Even
oh yeah, for sure.
Eating out, Airbnbs. We wanted our Airbnbs to be pretty centrally located so we could see the stuff we wanted to see.
Even transportation.
Yeah.
Transportation is huge. Honestly, like the fact that you had all of that dialed in, it was like, okay, we're going to fly into Geneva. We're going to take a bus into Chamonix. And like you had all this stuff dialed in that it was like, cool, we don't have to worry about that. But it's like, you know, if you don't have these things planned, it's like you show up, you're like, well, we don't even know what bus situation is going to get us from A to B. Or like, you know, you get somewhere and it's like, well, they don't even have like Uber or Lyft very popular in this area.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's always kind of been my role because I've spent so much time doing it.
Oh, that's huge.
The only thing for me, and I don't need an itinerary, like every day we're going to do this, this, and this. Yeah. It's more so like I want to make sure getting from point A to point B and where we're resting our head at night is dialed. Those are the only things I want to make sure are good.
Okay, you know what? I got a question for you.
What you got?
When you're going on a trip, like what are the things that you want to accomplish? Like, do you have things that are like, okay, like I want to do A, B, and C, or is it just like, I really just want to show up and like let things happen as they happen? Like, or do you have like, this is what I want to get out of a trip?
Yeah, I think it depends. I mean, this Denver trip's a good example. You know, we were like, hey, let's continue this podcast train that we've been on.
Yeah, right.
Let's make let's have another excuse to record another episode. So there's like productivity, but also fun, like snowboarding. But when you go somewhere new, perhaps like Stockholm or Paris and stuff, where there's so much, it's so rich in history and there's so much going on and there's so many beautiful things to see and so much of the culture to experience. I think coming up with like a dialed list of things you want to do is, for me, is important. But then there needs to be a piece of like spontaneity.
Ooh, spontaneity? You mean the spice of life?
The spice of life. I think there needs to be a little spontaneity in those trips.
There's a Gnarls Barkley song that starts. He says, spontaneity is a spice of life. And I think he says like, and I indulge quite a bit or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's always kind of like sat with me for some reason.
Yeah. So to me, the thought of traveling, I've had a couple friends in the past or people within, you know, my friend groups who have like entire itineraries and they have like an hour by hour of trips. So to me, that's like being locked in a tight, small space, like that super claustrophobic feeling, but a list of like things I want to accomplish, well, or even want to see or do, without like walls, you know, keeping you into that a specific schedule. I think that's important for me. Like Paris is a perfect example where we saw kind of everything we reached out or wanted to see. We didn't see the catacombs, but that was a pretty, like we got quite a few things on our list checked off.
Oh yeah.
So that was like a really good example of that to me.
Even just going to the catacombs and like just the story of us going out there, like is just a whole other part of that entire trip that, you know, we didn't even get to go in there because they had closed, but that whole story of just like racing through the city was like such an adrenaline filled part of the trip that just like couldn't have happened if we had planned it. Like, okay, we're going to really plan out this very last second thing that was just going to like, you can't plan those things. Yeah.
So I think, I mean, to wrap it back, I think that's it. I think it's just like having a list of things you want to hit and knowing you have to make the time for them, but not being locked into a specific schedule. That's what I like. And then there's always an aspect to me of somehow becoming productive during trips. Like even if all it is just like gathering content for myself or like the YouTube video thing that like I made a bunch of YouTube videos and that was kind of for my little memory bank. Put it on YouTube, of course, so anyone can watch it. But at the end of the day, it was kind of for me. And I look back on some of those videos now and relive those moments. So that was like my excuse to be productive or feel productive. I know there was a couple mornings I got up and like worked on stuff that actually was like work. But yeah, I think a little bit of all of that stuff sprinkled in is really nice. And then of course, making time to fully enjoy aspects. Going to dinner and knowing you can enjoy it for the next 4 hours. Like enjoy the next 4 hours of your night and
just be able to shut it off and like enjoy the moment.
Yep, for sure. And I think again, another good example of that would be Paris or Cannes, where we would just eat dinner and sit and enjoy. And if we got in a conversation with the people next to us, awesome. If we didn't, we were enjoying each other's time and company. You know? So especially as you get older, you kind of appreciate those moments a lot more because you don't see your friends as much or people get busy. I know like me and Ryan is like a perfect example. You know, we don't see each other a ton. So when we do have time together, it's like so special. So to have that 4 hour block at dinner, it's like, it's special, man. You get to reconnect with your best friends. You get to talk smack. You get to,
I mean, it's the same like visiting family too. Like, like I said, I think a lot of people, you know, why they travel is to go visit family. And it's like, it's great to have that time with family and just kind of shut everything down, turn everything off and be in the moment with your family and your friends and stuff like that too. But I think another part of that too is to like have things set out that is like, even outside of that, it's like, you know, you go to see your family and everything like that, but like also you're on a trip, like do something for yourself while you're out there too.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Whether it's like go to the beach or check out a mountain or hike.
Right.
Anything. Yeah. I agree, man. Trips are essential. And I think it all kind of ties back to, I don't know the exact saying off the top of my head. I probably should have done a little research on this one, but there's like that saying of spending money on experiences versus possessions, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think for some people, and me especially, the older I get, the more I realize that that's a huge like core value of mine, is spending money on a trip like that, it didn't matter. And this might come off the wrong way, and I definitely don't mean it to, but to me, in my soul, it wasn't about like, if I spent a few $100 extra on this trip because I got to enjoy like a couple sick meals. It's not like we ate like Michelin star restaurants. We just ate out. Like we just were eating out. And it's like, to me, if experiencing that trip in that way was a few $100 extra over the course of the trip, it's like, whatever. I spent it on that time and that, again, that energy and that chunk of my life.
Right.
And I got to experience it in a different way.
I had talked to someone recently about kind of a similar topic, like why we travel and everything like that. And they had said that they have a friend who travels to collect Michelin stars.
That's
like,
awesome.
Their thing is to like just go to these Michelin star restaurants, but like it's an excuse to travel. Like anybody else has their excuse to do something. Like
100%.
It's like, oh, would you say collecting Michelin stars is a hobby? It's like, well, you're just going to a restaurant, spending money on some really good food and everything like that.
For sure.
But it is an excuse to travel, go see new places and have these experiences. And if Michelin stars is just something that you really enjoy in life, like get after it.
Dude, 100%. And I guess that was just like an example, but I agree completely. I have some people that I know who have traveled for specifically because they enjoy history.
Yeah.
So they go to Paris, they go to, Spain, anywhere where there's like rich history, and that's all they want to do the whole time is they want to go get tickets to museums and so on. So I'm not knocking anyone's version of traveling. It's just, for me, like I don't buy super expensive, nice clothes or like nice jewelry or anything, as you could probably tell looking at me.
Dude, you're decked out in like
super like vintage clothes and like $30 pants. But so my version of spending money is those experiences. And for me, it's like maybe buying a lift ticket if we're somewhere new. Especially I didn't snowboard in Chamonix, but that would be how I would enjoy it. So it would be that versus a really expensive meal.
Fun.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I know
pieces like that.
I know a decent amount of people who have traveled just to see their sports team in different arenas, or even just trying to go to every arena possible for whatever sport that they're really into. Yeah,
a lot of my, again, family friends, same deal. Baseball, they want to see especially the historic fields.
I feel like it's a bigger deal in baseball than it is other sports. Like I don't hear a lot of people saying like, oh, I want to go to every NFL stadium just to experience every NFL stadium. I think baseball's a little more rich in the stadium culture.
Yeah, I wonder too if it's just like history, because baseball's been around for so long, and those stadiums have been too. I know, you have Wrigley Field, Fenway, old Yankee Stadium when there were still games being played there. But yeah, it is really cool. I think that's really cool when people kind of travel, and same with like concert venues and stuff. That's a big thing, especially smaller theaters and whatnot.
Dude, like coming out here to Breck last year, having an excuse to like dip off and just go to Red Rocks for the first time.
Yeah, I forgot you did
that was such a good experience for me. And like, especially a venue like Red Rocks, which is iconic. And of course it's like, up there with one of the best venues, I would say, like in the world.
Yeah, I think so. And it's cool too, because it's not that big as far as the capacity. And, it's, even if you are all the way in the back, obviously you're a little far, but it's still like a very intimate place. You're like surrounded by nature. Definitely. You have a view of Denver.
Well, even at the very top, I walked up there just to kind of get a feel for the whole venue space. And dude, even at the top, you get such a beautiful view of just the entire world outside of this venue. And it's like, it's a special place.
It's electric, man. Yeah, that place is awesome.
But traveling to like visit places like that is like such a sick excuse to go traveling anywhere.
I agree. To think about it too, you think about like New York or LA, like there's very, very historic concert venues, especially if you're like a rock and roll head like me. The Troubadour in LA or something like that. It's to think about the people that have played at those spots.
Dude, should we go see is it Rammstein? Am I even pronouncing that right? Should we go see them in Europe? Dude, how sick would that be? Just one of their shows alone, like it's an experience. Yeah, we had talked about it, huh? So the trip this year sounds like it's going to line up in like September for people listening, and we love Stockholm, Sweden a lot, and we had talked about going back there. And there's a Rammstein concert in Stockholm. Around the time we're there, so we were joking around about possibly visiting. Hey, Ray, can you look up the concert date for us? Thanks, buddy.
September 26th.
Jamie, can you look that up?
But that would be so dope. You mean like going to a trip, especially in Europe, and it's like you go see this insane show on your trip. Like it just definitely adds in a whole other element to any trip that you go on.
Yeah. So another piece too is, making Oktoberfest part of it. Like none of us, I feel like none of us are huge, like we got to go party and drink or like beer heads, but there's still something to be said about like I've experienced Oktoberfest at some point in my life. And I was in that small corner of the world during this world renowned event.
Right.
So yeah.
It's a good excuse to travel. I don't know, bro. Did we go over our 30-minute allotment that we gave ourselves for whatever particular reason?
Yeah. KIF Conversations was supposed to be a 30-minute quick podcast episode, but this thing very well might go another 15, 20.
Bro, just straight up breaking our own rules. Sick.
Yeah, whatever. Before we wrap this thing up today, I think another question that I didn't even hit on, somehow I skipped over this, was the flight conversation.
You mean you have to get from A to B, and flights are usually the mode of transportation people take?
But from the U.S., of course, that's the big kind of threshold of whether or not you can get to Europe and afford it, right? Because if you want to go from Denver to Nashville,
right,
it's like a flight probably isn't too bad, and then an Airbnb probably isn't too bad. And Airbnbs in Europe weren't ridiculously pricey, especially if you're traveling with a crew where you can split it. But, like I said, that the big threshold or like the big, barrier to entry is a flight. So what do you think you would recommend for flights? Or searching for flights?
Well, I mean, when we planned our last Europe trip, like you said, it was so last minute. We just kind of like scrambled everything together, but we were still able to find really good prices on tickets. And of course, like once you get into Europe, just traveling around Europe in general is so cheap. So all you have to do is just make it into Europe and then kind of go from there. So honestly, you could almost just find a flight from, we went from New York to
Stockholm.
We went into Stockholm, but I know me and Ryan stopped in. Ryan, where did we stop?
Ryan, could you look that up?
Sorry.
Where did we fly into from New York?
Lisbon.
Yeah, we went into Lisbon.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like,
Could you look that up?
But
Our buddy Ryan's sitting.
Jamie's a little slow.
Our buddy Ryan is sitting on the behind the scenes, and we were joking around about how he's gonna. We were just joking around, about how he's gonna look stuff up.
But yeah, I mean, just like getting into Europe in general, like you can usually kind of like find something super cheap on that other leg. But obviously, planning ahead is such a big deal. The earlier you can get your ticket, the cheaper it's going to be, and just even shopping around in general. A lot of people just think it's so expensive, but they never even look. Like when you look at it, you can kind of realize like, actually, it's not that bad.
Yeah. What did you guys end up getting your flights for from New York to Stockholm?
Bro, you think I remember?
Jamie, could you look that up? Ryan, could you look that up? No, I mean, roughly, if you were to guess, like, I want to say you guys got around 500, right?
It's like maybe even like 3.
Okay. From when you flew Newark to Lisbon
to Stockholm, yeah.
To Stockholm, okay. I ended up using points, but I did Newark to Amsterdam to Stockholm, and then met up with you guys. We landed within like 30 minutes of each other.
That was perfect.
It was perfect.
Well, I mean, there's other resources too. Like I've looked at stuff on Hopper before too, and Hopper is usually a pretty good resource to find pretty cheap flights.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, you're right. Like the whole flying into Europe or flying into another country is usually the big thing that like kind of turn people away.
Yep. Yeah, the barrier to entry is I think that's, for a long time kind of what steered me away from wanting to travel overseas or to travel overseas. But I think Google Flights, of course, that's like a super good basic one, and it gives you a list of so many different flights. And we're all kind of people who try to avoid layovers or long layovers at any cost. So if it means spending a little more to not have to sit at an airport or make 3 or 4 stops to get to our destination, that's huge for us. So yeah, I think that was the last question I had for you.
Wow.
The last tough one. Flights.
Really stressing, dude. Really, really stressing. Oh, okay. One last question for you on this subject too. When you're looking up Google Flights, would you go incognito mode for that?
Oh, I actually have done that. I've done. I'm not a big Chrome guy.
Well, but you know what I mean.
But I do use incognito. I have Chrome now for some work, but using incognito mode. But I honestly have noticed that sometimes it's the exact same.
Right.
But also,
I wonder if that's like a big myth. That would be something fun to look up for our like tips and tricks episode. Like, is incognito mode really going to help you save on, flights? Do they really bump it up because you've searched on it before and they know that's what you're looking
using
for?
Using a VPN too. So you have a different IP and stuff.
Would that really matter? Like, does it actually change anything?
Yeah, that's interesting. I actually didn't think about that. We'll have to do that. But yeah, I think another thing too, like you said, obviously flying within Europe is so cheap, but something to kind of take note of, which is really interesting, is you can fly. I mean, we flew from Stockholm to Nice to get to Cannes for, I want to say that was like a $40 flight.
Yeah.
But then EasyJet's kind of like the Spirit Airlines in Europe, right? So they charge you for everything.
Yep.
You got your backpack, and maybe you get one free carry-on. Actually, I don't think so. I think you just get a personal item. But yeah, then it racks up pretty quick. But regardless, you can fly anywhere in Europe for $60 to $80, I would say.
I mean, that goes back to like traveling light. Like the lighter you travel, the less you're going to pay too. Like,
yep. Worst case, I don't know. What do you think the most expensive flight was when we were over there? Was it that one?
I know my most expensive flight was from Paris back into Nashville.
Okay. What about when we were over in Europe? Was it the Stockholm to Nice? I think it was.
Yeah, everything else was so cheap. And not even to say that flight was expensive.
Totally. And then, of course, public transportation is a beautiful thing over there.
Oh, man.
The trains.
Yeah.
We only took one train route while we were there, but it was like $30 a person, and this thing was luxurious.
It was nice, dude.
It was so nice.
Dude,
we felt
next time,
kings
I
on that
do want to
train.
experience, have more train experiences next time we go. Cause obviously we don't have a lot of train experiences here in the US, but in Europe, it's such a big deal. And there's some very beautiful train rides you can take.
Oh my gosh, have you seen the ones in Switzerland? We're always sending Instagram clips. Did you see this train route? We'll have to do it. But yeah, we'll keep this thing short and sweet. End it here. This is the first KIFCAST conversation. KIFCAST conversations.
KIF combos.
KIF convo. I don't know, whatever it's called. But we're gonna keep this thing short. Wrap it up. We're 40 minutes deep or something, and we're gonna get back to enjoying the rest of our day because it's like 70 and sunny here in Denver. So.
Yeah, we got a trip to experience.
We do have a trip to experience. And Bonesy has to buy a snowboard.
I got to buy a snowboard, dude. We're like day 3, and I have yet to buy a snowboard.
Poor
I'm
guy.
itching, dude. I'm just itching to drop some money on a
Ryan,
snowboard.
could you look up what's open that sells snowboards? Nothing.
0. It's all closed. Definitely not the Burden story.
If you guys made it this deep, as always, thank you so much for listening to us ramble on. Appreciate it. I'm hoping this thing gets better with time because we're learning. And this is KIFCAST. And we love you so much.
Love you
I'm
guys.
Jason. This is Bonesy. And Ryan's behind the camera. And we'll see you next time on the KIFCAST.
Peace. Good luck with those allergies, dude, because you sound like really nasally.